Because it's just people looking at bald guys and going, he's also bald. I mean, I get Johnny Sins, I get Mr. Clean, I get Cesaro, I get Jason Statham. Simon Miller, bald a-hole here. It means I have no hair and I'm a bit of an idiot. People say, why do you call yourself the bald a-hole? Well, we aren't allowed to say the proper word because YouTube got mad and started to demonetize a bunch of my videos, although it's doing that anyway. In fact, while I am here, I'll just say, if you enjoy my gym fail videos, if you could support me on Patreon, that would be great. Patreon.com/Simon316, link in the description below, because they are just getting demonetized every week now, because apparently they're meant to be super harmful. But when you watch them, it's just kiddie violence, but hey, what are you going to do? Anyway, point is, people used to call me that in the comments, oh, you're such a bald a-hole, you're such a bald a-hole. So I thought, well, I'll start calling myself that, and then I have negated the insult, and it's worked ever more. Point is, today we're going to do a Q&A. Thanks for the questions, let's go. Start with Jack Middlemas, who says, can you see CM Punk doing well in AEW? So we'll start with a wrestling question. Yes, if you have been watching the magical world of AEW or Elite Wrestling recently, if CM Punk hasn't signed with that company, then man, they've made a massive faux pas, because everybody has decided they have, although I wouldn't actually mind because I'm just enjoying the anticipation and I'm enjoying the fun. I think he'll do great there. I think CM Punk had a great run within WWE. If you know the reasons it didn't really go to plan, you know, we don't have to talk about it here. But I also think he's a guy that goes out there. He puts himself in quote-unquote uncomfortable positions or uncomfortable situations, and that's something that I always massively respect. I find it very, very inspiring because, you know, the MMA thing, the UFC thing, everyone goes, oh, he got beaten up. Are you kidding me? When I'm 90 years old, if I'm able to, I mean, what would be something equivalent to me? Because I wouldn't do MMA. It's just not in my wheelhouse. But there'll be something out there that, you know, if I could use my name and my fame and my drawing power in order to get the opportunity to do it, would I say no just in case I got my ass kicked? Of course I wouldn't. I'd rather have the experience, and I'd rather have the belief that maybe I could do something even if it didn't work out that way. So I think this would be the second coming, obviously, in CM Punk, or maybe the third coming if you want to look at it that way. I think he's going to be brilliant in AEW. I truly do. I think he's having a bunch of great matches. I think he's going to capture the attention of a lot of people that aren't watching wrestling anymore, and I'm very excited about it. Dark Knight says, who would you rather want to play in a movie if you got the chance, Professor X or Lex Luther? And I wonder why you chose those two people. Who would I rather play? Well, essentially, you can play the wise leader of the X-Men, or you can play the asshole trying to take Superman down. I'd probably play Lex Luthor. I'd rather play Professor X, because Lex Luthor never really stands a chance. He can't take down Superman. He's a Superman. And every time he does take down Superman, it never really works out that well. So I would be Professor X. Because then, yeah, people are like, oh man, he's well smart. Although he's in a wheelchair. That's actually the worst thing in the world, because it means I wouldn't have to train legs. Lee Sean says, how does your faith contribute to your generally positive outlook? Well, I don't actually think it ties in. Like, I don't think I am a positive person because of my faith. I'm Jewish, and I'm very, very Jewish, if that makes sense. Well, I'm not very, very Jewish. I just believe in a spiritual side. It's the point I was trying to get across. And no, I don't eat bacon, ham, or pork, or anything like that. Or shellfish. Dun, dun, dun. Stay away from shellfish. But I don't think those two things tie in. Or maybe they do on a subconscious level. I mean, the reason I wanted to be positive in my own life before I started presenting it out into the internet is because I'd gone through some crap stuff, and I was like, well, life's a bit of a roller coaster. We may as well try and, you know, embrace every day as much as we can. I know it's a stupid thing to say, and you want to punch me in my face, but it's also true. So no, I don't think there's a correlation there. But again, yes, I would say that maybe in my darker times, I mean, I haven't had any dark times. I've been very lucky, but, you know, in my more down times, you know, do I use my faith as somewhat of a crutch to try and get myself back on my feet? Yes. And I think that everybody should do that using not necessarily faith, but whatever works for you. There's always something that you could lean on. It's like the song, right? Lean on me. So it's just the same thing. So no, I don't really think those two things compute, but I am a very spiritual dude. Harry Atkinson says, what were your best ever numbers on the squat, bench, and deadlift? I mean, a lot more than I'm doing now, because there was a huge period of my life where I just ate. And I ate, and I lifted weights. I mean, I was like 18 stone at one point. I'm nowhere near 18 stone now. But I was just a blob of a human. A strong blob, really strong for me, but a blob of a human. I remember I did a 285 kilogram deadlift once, and then I almost fell over. Saw all the black spots, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go down. My bench was never that good, but I think I did a 175 kilogram bench once, I'm pretty sure. And my squat is abysmal. I once did a 200 kilogram squat, but honestly, it was the worst form you've ever seen in your life. Like, I was an embarrassment. I was an embarrassment to mankind, but I think they're my three best lifts. Ben Curtis said, would you consider creating a mental health podcast? I first came across your channel through Miller's Musings and would love to hear some more in-depth conversations. Sincere thank you for being an inspiration for health and fitness. Well, first of all, Ben, that's always very kind of you. Always flatters me and humbles me when people do say that. I mean, I certainly would, but it's just a question of time. I'm already in a situation where actually trying to get everything done I need to get done is becoming a problem. if I'm completely honest, especially when you have to have a personal life and you have to have a life outside of work too. But I mean, if I could find a way to make it work, then yes, of course I would. Mental health is something that is very personal to me, and we'll talk about it one day. Never gone into the nitty gritty as to why, but the time will come when I decide it's good to share that information. But I would like to do it. I do like talking about it because I think it's an important talk to have. It's just a time management issue, and at the moment, I've got none. Fabian says, do I need to train 5 days a week, or does 3 times a week full body enough to get a decent body? If that's all the time you have to dedicate to the gym, then yes, you can get a decent body working out 3 times a week. But if you're talking about getting the extra percent and getting maybe over a hump or progressing your training, then no, it's not. You're going to hit a wall, not quite quickly, but eventually you will hit a wall. And what you really want to be able to doing is train individual muscle groups twice a week, right? We've talked about it 1,000 times. Train your bicep twice a week, your back twice a week, chest twice a week, so on and so forth. But it doesn't mean that you just don't go to the gym entirely, because you can only go 3 times, 2 times, 1 time, 72 times. Just do what you can do, and remember, you're only doing it for you, so therefore that's all that matters. Romero says, how does it feel to be compared to legends like Johnny Sins and Mr. Clean? Does it bother you? Well, it doesn't bother me, because it's just people looking at bald guys and going, he's also bald. I mean, I get Johnny Sins, I get Mr. Clean, I get Cesaro, I get Jason Statham. There'll be a bunch I'm not even thinking about right now. We've already talked about Lex Luther and Mr. X. I've perfectly come to terms with the fact that I am bald, so therefore I don't mind when people compare me to other bald people. It's fine. Jack Gar Prime says, would you ever consider covering gaming topics again? I know you're mostly fitness related now, but I always enjoyed stuff like the Mirror Report and the like. Well, again, that's very, very kind. And I would do, but the problem is when I was doing that stuff is that not a lot of people watched it. No, that sounds terrible. I don't just make content so it can be watched. But when you do stumble across something that seems to have more of a audience, you know, you want to dedicate more of your time to that. So I certainly would do, and I'm sure there'll be things that come and go where I think, oh, I'll just dip my toe into the waters there. But going back to what I did before, probably not, because again, nobody wanted to watch it, which is fine. You don't have to, but that's the truth. The Party Wizard said, hey, Simon, love your content. And he must have known I was going to be wearing my pizza winner shirt today. Would you ever run a competition with the prize of getting to train with you for a day? Well, the answer is no, simply because I'm sure most people I'm talking to, 99.9% of the people I'm talking to right now are normal, good human beings. But what would happen is I would get the 0.1% who's crazy, and they would come and they'd probably stab me in the eye. And as I was bleeding out on the floor, as they took a dump on my face or something, I'd be like, man, I should never have run that competition. I regret saying it. Matthew Clark says, when did you start your training to get into the ring? Well, I started back in 2016, which is kind of terrifying. And the reason I started to go was because, you know, I kind of got to a crossroads in my life. It's way too over the top. But the point is, I was like, now is the time to finally get this done, Simon. Train, have a match. And then a wrestling school opened like 10 minutes from my house. So I was like, well, if you don't go, you're crazy. We document it all on What Culture Wrestling. Please do check it out if you haven't seen it. And the only issue with my training is that I lost 1.5 years because of the pandemic, right? Because, you know, independent wrestling closed down across the board over here in the UK and America and across the world. And I also lost another 8 months because of a shoulder injury. So basically just over 2.5 years of these 5 years. So half of it has been wiped out because of nonsense. But that's life. What can you do? Hopefully we can get back into it now, and finally I can get some momentum with this. Hey B says, hey Simon, assuming regular holidays ever happen again, how do you handle nutrition and training during them? Do you bring some dumbbells with you? That's what I do. Filter the hotels with a gym, ? Yeah, I just make sure I stay in a hotel with a gym, or I make sure I survey the gyms in the area. I mean, the last holiday I went on again before the global pandemic was to New York. So I just picked a hotel that had a cardio machine in it, which is fine because most hotel gyms can suck. And I knew there was a gym down the road that would let me buy a day pass because I happened to have been to that gym before in the past on another holiday. It wasn't a holiday, it was a work trip, whatever. So yeah, I just do that, really. My diet isn't as strict as it would be otherwise because I think that's just too hard. If I really, really want to be as strict as I'm happy to be, what I would do is I won't eat any carbs in the day and I have all my carbs in the evening, right? Just to try and balance out the calories. But no, I mean, when you go on holiday, unless you're actually training for something specific, I think you should take your foot off the gas a bit. If you can get your workouts in, that's awesome, because obviously it's always good to keep training. But then again, having a week off is really good as well, or 2 weeks, whatever it will be. Your body will appreciate it, depending on how intense you have been working up to that point. So there's no right or wrong with it. I would say if you're going on holiday, the point is to relax and have a good time. So if that means going to the gym a little bit to have a good time, do it. If that means eating well most of the time, do it. Or if it means going the other way and completely acting like a fat ass, you should do that too. Big K says, best Metallica album, mine is Ride the Lightning. I don't have just one best album. We talked about this before because my mood can change every single day. But if somebody ran in here, boring, with a put a gun to my head, I'd pick Master of Puppets. I know, but it's essentially perfect from start to finish. Shakib says, what do you think is the best way to get muscles? Going to failure or overloading the weight or frequency? Well, you'll be very sad to hear the answer is both. You should be doing all of those things because they're both going to work. Progressive overload is always a good way, but don't forget, even within progressive overload, there are things you can do. If you do a 100 kilogram bench press for 10 reps on the first Monday, and then on the second Monday, you do the same weight but for 12 reps, that's just as good as doing 10 reps for both, but you increase the weight by 5 kilograms. And that's why going to failure is a really great indicator too, because if you go to failure to the point your body simply can't lift any more weight at all, and you do 8 reps on a given exercise, but the next week you put the weight up and you go 6 reps to failure, then you know you're training harder than last time. I mean, Greg Doucette has smashed it with that catchphrase because that's what it is, but you should be incorporating all of these things, and you should be incorporating supersets and drop sets and who knows what else, right? That's the whole point. You always want to keep your body guessing, and you want to do it for your own mental sanity as well. You don't just want to be doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, you're doing a basic plan, but you want to make sure that you're bringing all these techniques in order to, well, just spark into life muscle protein synthesis, right? That's all it counts. How do I get my muscles to start growing? And all of the blow will work. Moon says, now that you're back in action, what have you missed most about professional wrestling? The crowds. I know that's boring, but as much as I love doing the match on Sunday, which was my first match back, check the video out now, the best bit was when I went to the curtain. The crowd were very, very nice with the reception they gave me. They were hooping, they were hollering, and it just makes you feel alive, which sounds stupid, but it's true. It makes you feel alive. It really grounds you in that moment. It's almost impossible to take in, which frustrates you because you just want to get all that juice, but it pumps you full of adrenaline. It pumps you full of endorphins. And I suppose in many ways, it's a reason that kind of fuels the match on as well, because you get in the ring and you're feeling great. So as always, it's the fans. James says, would you rather walk around with an amazing physique forever and never really use it, or be in a situation where for a brief moment you had incredible strength and were able to use it in front of 1,000 people? All of those people would never forget you either. That's really weird. Well, it depends on the provisos. If I'm using my strength to save people and save somebody's life, I would pick that one, because you don't want anyone to die. But if it was just picking up a log, so people go, wow, that guy picked up a log. No, I'd rather walk around with an aesthetically pleasing body because, again, we train and we lift weights for ourselves. It's always good when somebody else notices it. And again, as we talked about in the wrestling video, it's great for wrestling because people look at you and go, oh, man, that guy could kick someone's ass. But no, if I could just walk around with an amazing physique forever, I would pick that one. Siobhan says, what exercise did you find where you're weakest or most difficult when starting out? I don't take to barbell squats naturally. Squats would be one for me too. Really had to dedicate myself to the squat. I mean, most exercises, I would say the other way. Which one did I go, oh man, I'm actually not good at this, but fine, I have some kind of affinity with it. And it would be the deadlift, which is probably why that was my strongest lift by quite a margin too. It's not that it wasn't hard, but I just felt like I was progressing in it far quicker than I was with the other lifts. And it's like anything. When you actually find that you are good at something, you instinctively like it more because it doesn't make you feel like a massive moron. So yeah, I totally get it. Keep going. Maybe you need to dedicate more time for the lifts that your body doesn't like lunges. But that's why it sucks. That's why the gym isn't all peaches and cream. Mike says, when building your physique, did you mentally deal with accepting your genetic weak points growing slower than other portions of your physique? I have disproportionately small arms. I'm training both biceps and triceps twice a week. And no, I should allocate more volume to see more growth. But my question is, mentally, how did you deal with it? Well, I've never really worried about it, to be completely honest with you, because your body's going to grow the way it's going to grow. For me, it was more about my overall aesthetic. Like, did I like what was looking back at me in the mirror? This changed hugely when I tried to do a bodybuilding competition. Then it was like, man, your left deltoid sucks. So you do try and address it more. But otherwise, no. As long as I looked okay overall, I was happy. And if I thought overall I looked like I sucked, I wasn't happy. So it's never really like, oh, I need to work on that or I need to work on this. But it is, it's a difficult thing that will happen because some people can have massive legs and sort of a tiny upper body. And some people can have massive arms and a tiny chest. And they do look strange. So you do need to kind of dedicate more time to these areas. But do you want to? Usually no. Chris says, this is a strange thing to ask, but do you find people react strangely to your admirable body? Well, I think it's weird. You just said I had an admirable body. So I appreciate it. And yes, I will never be able to fathom that because as we've talked about time and time again, I probably do have some sort of body dysmorphia, or at least I'm never going to be happy with my physique. I'm always going to be chasing the dangling carrot. That's just the way I've fallen into. But it doesn't upset or depress me. Sometimes people go, oh, Simon, you can't beat yourself up like that. I'm not beating myself up like that. I've completely accepted it. I'm like, okay, I'm never going to be that happy with the way I look because I don't see myself how other people see me. And that's okay. That's okay. It's not something I feel like I need to sort out. So I don't. Edward says, if you had hair, which of the two hairstyles would you rock? A mullet or a really spiky mohawk? Now, I go for the mullet. The mullet is an all-time classic. And I will tell you this, if I was still able to grow hair, I mean, I am, but it had massive holes in it, I would have really, really, really long hair. I just think it's cool. So there you go. Thank you very much for all the questions. Sorry I couldn't get to all of them, but I definitely will answer as many as I can next time too. Now, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the bell, ding dings. You know, other videos are going live. Notification squad. Another video on the screen right now. Please do give it a click. And then, yeah, in the description, a bunch of stuff. Instagram and Twitter at Simon316. Greg 2 Sets Power 13 cookbook with a code to get some money off. My Patreon, patreon.com/Simon316. Simon.bigcartel.com for merchandise. Probably missed some stuff, but it's all there for your perusal. Couldn't say that properly. I'll see you on the next one.